do you really need an online scheduling tool? I think a lot of smaller studios are still kind of doing things manually, or maybe they've got some, sheets, some spreadsheets that they're tracking things with. Realize that clients expect a really easy way to manage their own schedules. Choosing the right scheduling software helps you improve that client retention because you're providing a better experience for your clients. Fewer things slip through the cracks for you, makes you deliver a better product. And it's really integral to your marketing these days as well, how you communicate with your clients. So if you started looking into, okay, I need a scheduling tool to help me manage my business, you will know that there are hundreds of options out there all over the world.
It's overwhelming.
There's no cut and dry thing, and why your community has probably struggled with picking the right tool.
Yeah, and just for those wondering, we are going to get to specific solutions, specific software. Connie's created an amazing software matrix specifically for Hit Studios, which is amazing. Lauren Steele here, and welcome back to High Intensity Business, your one-stop shop for growing your hit business and fueling your passion for high-intensity training. Before we dive into today's episode, please grab your free PDF playbook, Referral Machine, 4-step referral blueprint for your high-intensity training business. You can download that now over at highintensitybusiness.com/ref. That's REF, short for referrals. You'll also get a full-length video training with Discover Strengths Luke Carlson on the best proven practices for driving referrals in your business. Again, go to highintensitybusiness.com/ref. Today's guest is Connie Holen, and today we are going to focus on how to find the best client management software for your hit business. And I'm so thrilled to be talking about this. This is a big problem in our niche, and before now I really haven't produced much content to address it. So I'm really excited, and I'm grateful that I found someone like Connie to help me with this. Connie is a web designer, digital strategist, podcast host, speaker, and educator. She's also a mindbody certified business consultant and Squarespace expert. Her boutique web design agency, Pixality Design, works with fitness design owners to create websites that are easily found, easy to update, and provide visitors with an exceptional online experience. Connie is also a retired Air Force pilot, which is super cool, and lives outside Lincoln, Nebraska, US, with her husband and 4 sons. I'll also add, with a design agency, Pixality Design, Connie is actually helping a lot of hit businesses specifically. Pixality is a web design agency specializing in helping fitness and wellness studios grow online. Pixality has helped over 300 fitness and wellness professionals launch and manage engaging engine-optimized Squarespace websites. So Connie's a real gem, and I just think it provides so much value. In our last podcast on how to design and set up a great website for a hit business, and obviously today we're exploring software, which is really cool and a big interest among my listeners. So Connie, welcome back. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Glad to be back because you've got a great community here. So happy to be back.
Great to have you. Right. So let's go through this in order. So you sent some notes over to me, which were very, very helpful. And the first question you had is, or the first point you had is setting the stage. So these are the questions or kind of bullets that you think owners should go through when they're reviewing and assessing what tools they need, what software they need for their business.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think the first one is, do you really need an online scheduling tool? I think a lot of smaller studios are still, kind of doing things manually, or maybe they've got some, sheets, some spreadsheets that they're tracking things with. So I think the first point is just to realize that it's 2024. Clients expect a really easy way to manage their own schedules. So, back end of your studio aside, the end clients are really looking for, a way to keep their schedule updated, and their training sessions is a big piece of that. So, I think, yes, really evaluating this. And if you've been with something for a while that isn't working for you, reevaluating it is just one of the critical pillars of doing business for a fitness studio these days. So, choosing the right scheduling software helps you improve that client retention because you're providing a better experience for your clients. Fewer things slip through the cracks for you, and which makes you deliver a better product in general from your business. And it's really integral to your marketing these days as well, how you communicate with your clients. So I think the first thing is just, how is your current scheduling system, whether it's an online scheduler or not? How is it working for you? And do you feel like things are slipping through the cracks. You're not doing a great job communicating or tracking your clients. And that kind of brings us to, all right, let's reevaluate what you have and see if we can see if you're on the right system.
Okay, so just to ask a few questions on that. Do most products, and don't go into too much depth here, but maybe like a yes or no, some small about detail. Do most products provide the ability for the client to connect their own calendar to their schedule? So, to basically make sure that their appointments that they're booking with the fitness business are going into their own calendar, whether that's Google or iCal or fill in the blank.
I'd say it's probably 50-50.
Really? Wow. Okay.
There's a lot of ones where they can click something to add to their calendar, but as far as automatically connected, that's pretty rare.
Right.
But, we can talk about later too, like, recurring appointments and those types of things that would help them manage it.
Yeah.
But then also, if they know they have an appointment, then being able to change it easily too is kind of piece of that ongoing. If they have to jump through hoops to change a recurring appointment that they have or a regular, session that they normally attend, that's just friction in the process too for
Yeah.
whether they stick with it or not.
Right. Yeah. You want it to be as easy as possible to reschedule, right? You want low friction, as you say. It kind of makes sense that this is going to improve client retention, having the software in place and having this making life easier for clients. But do we have data to show that? Do we have any evidence that those with these tools retain clients longer? Because client retention is affected by so many different variables. So just curious if you got any more thoughts on that.
Right. Yeah. I don't have specific data. I'm sure there is some out there, you would think.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think just anecdotally, I know that personally I stick with things and I go back to businesses that are easy to work with. And I think we all kind of know that, right? If it falls off our own motivation every once in a while, and if it's kind of easy to jump back in or it's easy to keep going, I think we kind of know all that about ourselves. So that's where I get that from. I don't really have like a study or anything to point to, but
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure if you go to some of these softwares that we're going to talk about today, they'll have the graphs and the data to
I
show.
bet they would. Yeah, for sure.
All right. So I love this next point. We're talking about the exceptions here. Do you want to just move on to that next bullet?
Yeah, I think, when we talk about, moving more things to an online scheduler or scheduling software, um, some people think like, well, I've got to do that like across the board in everything that I do. And I think when you look at a bunch of hit studio sites in general, a real common kind of first action that you want people to do is to fill out a form, just get in touch with you so you can talk with them, figure out if it's a good fit. It's a very high level kind of concierge service. So I want to be very clear that that is still great. Like that is a great first step from your website as far as getting people to convert on a website. Like make it as easy as possible. You don't have to get them into the system right away, creating an account. I mean, no one wants to create an account if they don't have to, just to get more info or to book
I
a
hate
free
creating
intro
accounts,
session,
Connie.
right? Yeah. And that's, you can't get around that, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to be like entering credit card info and paying for something, there's no way around creating an account with the scheduling software. They're going to have to do it eventually, but for that first interaction where you're just trying to get them to like, on your website to interact with you so that you can have that sales conversation with them. Don't feel like you have to make that part of your scheduling system, like a simple form that goes to you and you contact them. Old school way of actually just connecting with someone is the most highly converting way of
Mm,
getting something done on your website. So when we talk about scheduling softwares, and we're talking about the day-to-day op. Once you get people in the door, it's a good fit for them. It's a good fit for you. Now you get them into that scheduling system and you can provide that client experience for them ongoing, but it doesn't necessarily have to be for that first contact. So we keep that as
mm.
simple as possible.
So let me just make sure I understood this correctly. So the form fill that they initially complete when they're booking that free workout or just making contact, you're keeping that simple, low friction. And then you get them on the phone, and then are you saying that you actually want to create that account for them usually? So maybe you can have that conversation on the phone and get that data, create an account for them so that removes friction. And then ongoing in terms of managing that account, it's going to be easier for them. They don't have to necessarily create that account, or are they then Or is that not the case? Are they actually going to create the account in their own time? Like, how do you make that as low friction as possible? Well, I misunderstood
Yeah,
that.
it can be done in either way. Yeah, I absolutely recommend either getting them in that first session without having to create an account or on the phone, however
Okay.
you do it. Um, I absolutely have, Hit Studio clients who create that account for them. And or an option is once they're in that first time, once you're doing your sales presentation at the end of their first session, you can hand them an iPad with the form up that they, right there can do it. Or you can send them a link and for them to set it up later too. It can go either way. I think the important thing is
Right.
that you get that initial kind of sales conversation in before you have them do the admin stuff. But I think most people expect that there is going to be an admin part at some point. But the idea is you've got them sold on the method in
Mm.
your studio before you do that. So there are a lot of softwares where you, as the admin, can create the account for them. Eventually, they're going to have to create a password and figure out how to use it. But you can kind of also show them that in person too, if you tend to have a demographic that's not real go-getter on
Mm.
setting things up online.
Well, come to think of it, yeah, sorry, I misunderstood there, but you clarified it. You want to reduce the friction as much as possible. So really, you want to make this easy for them and fill out as much as you can on their behalf. I mean, this is like you say, a high level premium concierge service. And then the things that they have to provide, i.e. credit card details or information like that, more personal information that you perhaps don't have, then they could do that. But you're really trying to decrease the amount that they have to do, right? So
Yeah.
that they can start using your service and enjoying the benefit.
Right.
Okay.
And
All right.
a piece
Go
of
on.
that, I believe also makes it, where they can log in to do that stuff going forward too. So
Yeah.
even if your core website is funneling people towards that simple form to get started, there should be a spot on your website where existing clients can go to log into their portal and to book and do stuff as well.
Cool. Okay. And next bullet here, hundreds of scheduler options. There are many for class-based studios or solo trainers and practitioners. Can you
Right.
elaborate on that?
Yeah. I mean, if you've started looking into, okay, I need a scheduling tool to help
Mm.
me manage my business, you will know that there are hundreds of options out there all over the world.
It's overwhelming. Yeah.
It's very overwhelming, right? Um, they really come in two camps. Many are built for class-based studios. And so the software that you'll find that's for fitness businesses, most of them, the primary thing that they're offering is class-based scheduling. The other camp that you'll find is more for solo practitioners. So they're appointment-based scheduling tools, but they're typically built for massage therapists or hairstylists or kind of people running their own business. So the challenge for hit studios in general is that you're kind of trying to saddle those two different, types of scheduling tools. And so either one of those categories might work for you, but if it's the appointment-based tools that are built for solo practitioners primarily, you're going to run into some challenges where you need it to do a little bit more probably than it can do. On the other hand, you've got these class-based fitness studio tools. You really need to look at the appointment piece that they offer. And some of those don't even offer appointments. You're not really all that concerned with the class, solutions that they have. You want to look at that sliver of services or features that they offer that are for appointment. So that's, I think, the challenge for hit studios and why there's no cut and dry thing and why your community has probably struggled with picking the right tool. There really isn't a tool that is like, we are for studios that offer primarily appointments. There are other niches. Pilates studios typically have the same scenario. And you find yourself kind of in between two main categories of tools, but that doesn't mean that they aren't out there. So, but that's
Yeah.
the challenge. That's a challenge that your studio owners have probably been running into.
Yeah. And just for those wondering, we are going to get to specific solutions, specific software. Connie's created an amazing software matrix specifically for hit studios, which is amazing. And something I've been thinking about putting together or finding someone like Connie to do for a long time. And obviously the issue with some of this stuff is it does move on quite quickly. But it's the best thing we can provide right now. So we are going to get to that during this, so that'll come a little later.
Right.
Yeah, stick with us. And the last point here, you said there's no one perfect platform. So it's really about tailoring it to or finding the platform that suits a business specific needs.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
And in order to do that, you have to do have some of that business set in your business. You have to have clarity on your pricing and your packages and a lot of things that you want to offer for your specific business. Because those are the things that matter when you're choosing a scheduling software. So you kind of have to have that foundational business stuff set first, or at least decided on the way you want to run things. And then you can filter the options through what you want. So it's
Yeah,
important. Just
so
because it
key.
works for one fitness studio isn't necessarily going to work for you. So
And that's what happens, right? Everyone goes, "Oh, you use mindbody. Oh, okay, we'll get mindbody." And they've got this like enterprise software, and they're this tiny little business who have no desire to
yeah,
grow beyond maybe a solo trainer, for example. And like you say, they have no criteria through which to actually decide whether that is the best software for them.
yeah,
And just I mention this a lot, but I just think it's so fundamental. I'm a big fan of EOS and Traction, and using something like that to actually come up with your strategy for your business, to create your vision, your strategic niche, your marketing strategy through something like that, which gives you like basically a one-pager business model, and then use something like that to help you determine what software is right for you. Because I do think most people do this backward. All right.
yeah.
So moving on, you got more important things here to keep in mind when selecting software. So do you want to go through some of this?
Yeah. So I think the first, and the disclaimer in that I'm a web designer. So my job is to make things as easy as possible for your end client, the person who's booking their sessions. So that's the lens that I look at this primarily from. That's the corner I'm coming from. So for me, a cohesive branded client experience is, I think it's critical. As the business owner and your staff, you're getting paid to figure out the software. Yes, we want it to be easy for you too, and a lovely experience to work with on the back end. But when it comes down to it, it's your job to figure out how to use the software. Your end client, the ones that are coming in and booking their sessions, not their job to figure out a software. So
Such a key
I
point.
think that's kind of the first thing. Like, it has to be so easy for the clients, first thing. And that'll make it easy for you too, if you're not dealing with customer support issues all the time involving your software. So that cohesive branded client experience and keeping clients on your website is best for this, because it keeps that trust. Once they've landed on your website, you've spent all this effort trying to build trust up with them. If you kind of take them out to another scheduling software, they have to start to learn to trust that software and that setup all over again. So if you can keep them on your site, it's best. It's not always possible, and we'll talk about, there's some pros and cons and pricing things to figure out, but that is a big thing that I think is important, especially in this niche, because this is a high end fitness experience that you're offering. So keeping that as branded and cohesive throughout the entire experience for the client is important.
Right. There's this congruence of premium throughout the entire business.
Right.
And for those that maybe misunderstood some of that, what Connie's talking about is, where possible, you really almost want the software to feel native to the site, to feel seamless. So you can get software that has widgets that you can embed on your website that put the scheduler directly on the site, so people can log in and actually schedule their appointments and manage their account through the website, which really gives it that native feel, so they don't have to then go off to another platform and overcomplicate things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's embedding the scheduling features on your own website versus taking them off your site to the scheduler.
Mhm.
Those are
Yeah.
kind of the two setup options.
Or off to an app, which can be, unless the app is part of your own ecosystem, that can also be a bit frictiony, can it? As well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And we can talk about apps too.
Heck,
Apps are a great option too, especially for return clients, but you never want to make them leave your website to go do something on an app, because they have to actually pull out their phone and go
mm,
to a different space. But there are web-based apps too, but
cool. Yeah. Part two, fitness
hard to.
business apps. Yeah. That's a good idea, actually. We'll talk about that offline. Okay. So, and the next important thing to keep in mind is marketing tools.
Yeah. This is something that has really evolved in the industry over the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years. You know, Most of the schedulers can do the basic scheduling, the basic appointment scheduling. We can talk about some of the nuances in a second, but really the differentiator these days comes down to support and then what marketing tools that you can make work with it. It's really a key part of that scheduling choice. because it's how you're going to run the day-to-day op of your business. And by marketing tools, I mean, how are you emailing clients? Are you sending them text message, SMSs? Are there in-app communications? How are you communicating with them based on where they're at in their own fitness journey? So you want to personalize that stuff. That's again another topic, but you want to personalize your marketing as much as possible. So someone who's been with you for 5 years might get different messages than someone who's in their first month with you. And so in order to do that, in order to personalize your marketing tool needs to plug in as much as possible with your scheduling tool. So it can see that, Lawrence has only been here for 3 sessions. Well, I'm going to send him these kind of marketing messages versus, Sally, who's been here for 5 years. So yeah, the marketing tools that work with the scheduler is kind of a critical piece to when you're vetting schedulers. It's not just about the scheduling, it's about the marketing as well.
Now, I know we're going to get into the specifics on the software tool soon, but just one question on marketing tools. And you said it there, obviously personalized marketing is so important. And in the beginning, when you first start a business, you can be super personal because you have ample time, you have no customers. So you're doing lots of one-on-one calls, emails, etc. And obviously we know that builds the best relationships and it has the highest conversion. And as you grow and as you become busier and you build up your customer list, etc., you don't have as much time, so you have to sacrifice a little bit and depersonalize ever so slightly. But one question I had is, if you are, and I know a lot of people listening to this might be solo trainers, they have no desire to grow, to hire people, they just want to fill their schedule. I think perhaps marketing tools may be less important there because they can actually provide a high level of customer service and personalization to those clients because they're not necessarily overwhelmed by other business activity. Is that a fair point, or do you still think they should invest in marketing tools? Yeah, go ahead.
No, absolutely. I think that's a fair point. I mean, you will still need basic marketing tools. You'll need a way to email people legally. You'll need a way to, text them legally. But once you have, you can get by with very basic tools then, because you're not looking at automations or AI assisted outreach and all of that stuff that you would look at when you're scaling larger. So yeah, absolutely, you can keep them.
But to be fair, it looks like based on the matrix that every platform comes with pretty good marketing suite or integrations anyway. So they're available, but sometimes they might cost a little extra to plug those in. So there you go.
Right. Yeah, and there's different levels in a lot of them too. I mean, the basic, you need appointment reminders, right? Those are in that kind of basic level is pretty much in each one. But yeah, you can kind of upgrade if you start needing to more fancy stuff.
Cool. All right. And you mentioned about support being do you need to elaborate on that, or can we move on to some other bullets there?
Yeah, I mean, I think people know this, right? Like inherently, and you will see. I mean, that's just one of those things that people, you need support, and different scheduling tools have struggled with it over different years. And so that's kind of just something that you need to keep in mind. Like, how much support are you really going to need, and how good is the support, that the tool offers? It tends to be why people love or hate a tool in the end. It seems to come down a lot to have the quality of their support. So
yeah, fully agree with that. Okay. Next bullet.
All right. Yeah, and I kind of hit this one too, but this is really important as we get into, my recommendations here. You as the business owner, start with your packages and pricing, get really clear on that. And, that sounds like a, great business advice, right? But when it comes to filtering out, when you get on these demos with softwares and it comes to deciding if this software is really going to work for you, you need to be clear on some of the nuances of appointment booking. So do you need to book reoccurring appointments? If you do, and the software doesn't offer it, that's going to be a lot of extra admin time for you to have to manually set up those recurring appointments for a client. Do you plan to offer rollover of unused sessions? So I'm on a 8 sessions a month membership. If I don't use all 8, I can roll over those for 30, 60, 90 days or something. That's kind of a little more tricky scheduling setup. Some offer it well, some don't offer it well. So get really clear on whether that's important to you or not. You can probably save some money in the long run, or go with a lighter weight scheduling software if you don't need some of those things. So absolutely just be very clear on what you want, the setup you want to do, and that's going to help you when you're vetting software.
Yeah. Just for some context, obviously Connie's become very familiar with HIT businesses, having worked with quite a few on their websites. But ahead of this podcast, I sent Connie like a massive email with everything I can imagine that that's been commented on or complained about the issues with software specifically for hit businesses. So hence the mention of rollovers, because that's quite a common one in our space, where clients might use a session and want to use it in sort of, like you say, 30, 60, 90 days expiry. And we're going to go through that matrix soon. Okay, so moving on to reporting and payroll.
Right. Yeah. And this kind of, you touched on it. If you are a solo, business owner and you plan to stay solo or very small, you probably don't need as robust reporting, payroll reports, all of those integrations for things that you might need if you're bigger and you've got more people to handle in your own business. So, reporting is obviously very important. You need to know the numbers in your business. Some schedulers give you very robust, any kind of reports that you might want. Others give you the basics, but it might be enough for what you need because you're very in touch with the numbers as it is. So that's something to keep in mind. That's not, it's kind of a side thing. Most schedulers aren't going to lead with how great the reporting is, but it is really important to the longevity of your business that you have access to those numbers.
Transaction fees. Watch out for those sneaky extra fees. Yeah, we all know this one.
They really get some. So and what we mean by that is, the cost of doing business, you're going to pay 2.8% plus 35 cents American for every transaction through, Stripe or whatever payment processor.
But it was 2.9. Has it gone down?
Maybe it's 2.9. Yeah, I don't remember it. So whatever it is around that. So, and that's going to change a little bit probably by your payment processor, but that is the cost of doing business. You cannot get around that. So what I'm talking about here are the extra transaction fees. Some software tools they'll kind of hit you, with their sales plan with a low monthly rate, which sounds great. But the fine print is, but we take an extra, say 3% of every transaction. So you get to the point where you're paying 5-6% of each transaction, which that math may work great when you're small and you have 2 clients and you're like, great, I have a really cheap monthly rate. But as you grow, now that 5% of every transaction, you're paying a lot of money to your scheduling software every month. So watch out for that. Ask about that. And you had mentioned in your list, Lawrence, that the transparency of those. And, that's a really kind of interesting thing because some people are very clear about, we do this. Like, that's great. If that math works for you and you watch that, some of them, as you start kind of digging in, you hear it's not real transparent and you start hearing grumblings from people who didn't realize that was kind of being upped behind them. So yeah, transparent and those extra transaction fees, just something to watch for and to ask very clearly about and to keep an eye on, honestly, look at your numbers and make sure that that's not something that was snuck in because we're not always going to read all the fine print.
Yeah. Yeah. We use mindbody, used past tense, for the studio here in Galway, Optimus Strength. And this might have been really perhaps an error on our part. We really struggled with it. Perhaps some of that was our ability to use the software. I ended up actually hiring someone just to help with that. Can you believe it? Right?
No, I can believe it.
And but that didn't last long either. So one of the issues we had is about these hidden fees. And it's not just that, it was understanding the fees. So we were looking at the invoicing and it just wasn't clear like where these fees were coming from. And there's all fees for all sorts of different things, right? Whether it's just standard transactions or refunds or whatever, failed credit card payments. And one thing that just kind of occurred to me there as you were talking is there were issues that were really just based on the fact that we are a European country using this software, and obviously charging clients in euros and using payment mechanisms that might not be as familiar in the States. And it just occurred to me because I know lots of hit studio owners that love mindbody and they're very happy with mindbody, and it obviously is, based on the matrix, probably the number one solution for most businesses, especially those who want to grow. And it just occurred to me that actually maybe a lot of problems we had were just based on the fact the studio is based in Galway, in Ireland, and maybe the software isn't quite optimized for that. And there are obviously local competitors that are more Irish-based softwares. So anyway, just a side thought, but yeah, really great point to be very mindful of all the fees that you might have to pay using your software.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And that kind of bridges to the next point where, language or payment processing requirements for your specific country and your location.
Oh yeah.
You led right into it.
That was unintentional.
It may end up overriding everything else if you have really specific, things that a very small local scheduler can do for you that one of these big ones that probably I'm going to talk about today just can't get there. That might be the best fit for you, and you might have to sacrifice some other things in order to keep, like I said, the payment situation in check, or the right language or language options in check. So yeah, it doesn't mean to, even though we're going to talk about the kind of giants in the industry here, it doesn't mean that you should write off local smaller ones if you have unique requirements for where you live.
Yeah. Yeah. I promise you that was not deliberate. I actually didn't even read that bullet until we got this. That's so funny. Right.
We're just flowing. That's right.
Yeah, I know. It's a beautiful thing. So I'm going to share my screen then, and we can look at this beautiful matrix that you created. So just give me a second here. So
now we'll get into the details, what people actually tuned in.
Yeah, exactly. The important stuff. No, everything you said is really great so far. Okay. So you can see that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So would you mind just running through this for us?
Yeah. So when I looked at, Lawrence had asked me, like, what are the best scheduling tools, the most popular ones for PIT studios? I've done this research before for cost-based businesses, but it is a little different for appointment-based or the needs that you all have. So I kind of took out my big list of all the tools that I know my clients have been on. And just like disclaimer on this, as a web designer, like I will work with whatever tool the business owner needs or wants. So I don't have any affiliation. I mean, I get no money from recommending any of these. I am affiliated with some of them just because they have marketing, education stuff or business education stuff, but does not matter to me in the business that I do, what tool you use. We will integrate it and push it to the max that we can. So that's kind of where I looked at all the tools that my clients had used and filtered them through some of the things that are important for hit studios. So you can see my 6 at the top. So kind of it came down to these 6 that are recommended for hit studios in some capacity: Mindbody, Momence, fitDEGREE, Acuity, Vagaro, and WellnessLiving. These are all that have the core features that you would need. So one-to-one appointments, small group sessions. You can make occasional one-to-one Zoom sessions, work on them. Monthly membership subscriptions and packages. You can have multiple trainers. And then recurring bookings was the other one that they all had. So any of those 6 can do the basic features that you want. There are other popular software tools that are great for different niches that just don't do appointments really well. And so I kind of listed some of those down at the bottom in case you're, had a recommendation for one, and now you can see why I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah. Sorry, just to interrupt 1 second, Connie. I just realized obviously a lot of people are listening, so we'll do our best to paint a picture with words. But if you want to see this matrix, which I highly, highly recommend you go and check it out, just go to YouTube or wherever we're posting this on video, and you'll be able to see the matrix. We're also going to link to it from the blog post over at episode 470 on highintensitybusiness.com. But anyway, if you're listening, we'll still, deliver some value and try and describe it as best we can.
Yeah, we'll try to walk you through it.
Yeah.
So as you also can imagine or see, there's a variety of price points for these 6 softwares. And so the specialty things, and that's why I say, again, make sure you know what's important to you. And just don't get like overwhelmed on demo calls with the things that they think is important. Know what's important to you and what's worth paying for.
Yeah, and we're going to go through obviously how to get the most out of demo calls after we review this matrix, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
demo calls are an art. So.
Yeah, I love your approach. It makes so much sense. In fact, sorry, very quickly, someone asked me the other day about, what software should I use? And I said, I can't recommend one particular solution because I'm not satisfied with what I see there in terms of there being like a perfect product for our space. And as you've kind of revealed during this, it really depends on your needs. And what I did instead is I sent them a process through which to make a decision. And yours is better than mine, to be honest. But I was close. And so this is super useful. So yeah, please continue,
Yeah.
Connie. Just go through this matrix, and maybe we can go. I don't know what you were going to say next, but maybe go software by software,
Okay.
or however you want. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to do it. Yeah, so I would, like you're saying, like these six that I'm going to go through right now, I would start there. Look, you can filter out just look on their websites and everything, and then book some demo calls, and we'll talk about that. But make your own
Oh, so
decisions.
you would shortlist to this six. You would start with this six as the potentials, is what you're saying, is it?
Yeah, if you have
Yeah.
if you're not already, because I can tell
Mm.
you that they do the basics at least. So you're going to filter out some of the other ones, unless you have some local ones like we are talking about that are
Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
um,
So another sign, I think we got to be mindful of paradox of choice, right? If you six is enough, and I feel like you've done a great job here shortlisting this down as being the best fit for my audience and most hit studios. So I don't think it makes any sense to evaluate 10. It just becomes massively time consuming, probably way more stress inducing and anxiety inducing because you're like, well, which one do I pick? So, I mean, six is probably in my book or too many. You almost want a short list of three or two as quick as you can, right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think after this conversation, you can probably
Yeah.
shortlist for your
Yeah.
studio down from there. And the only thing I would add is, yeah, if there's a local one that does something specific to your region that you want to also add to your list, absolutely, evaluate that too, add that too. Obviously, I'm not familiar with the whole worldwide options of all the schedulers, so these are
Yeah.
the big hitters. So.
Yeah, and sorry, I know I keep interrupting you, Connie. There are like obviously other softwares. Are you familiar with Glowfox? Familiar with
I
that
am
one?
familiar a little bit with them. I'm not super familiar with them.
Did that not meet your list because of it didn't fit the criteria, or just because it's not widely used in the States as much?
Um,
Because it's big in over here. Yeah.
yeah, I did not actually evaluate it across
Okay.
this list, so it might be one to add and evaluate.
No, that's okay. Because I mean, majority of people listening are in the US, so the platforms that are more mature for the US marketplace will probably be more but will be a better fit on average. But it was a great point you mentioned because obviously we have got listeners globally, and we've got studio owners in the UK, Ireland, across Europe, and across the world, really, Australia, etc., New Zealand, and yeah, that's just there will be some obviously local softwares that will be a good fit for their particular country. So yeah, just maybe that's another point to throw into the shortlisting. Just look at because you can go to these review websites. Is it G2 and one that begins with CAP something rather? They're like
Yeah,
they review
Capterra.
software. That's it. That's the one. We'll link that up. And if you can perhaps maybe I don't know if there's a filter for your local area or country that might help you just make sure that you're not missing out on some of those local softwares that actually might be a good fit as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so we'll go through this, and at least as a starting point. The first on my list is Mindbody. It's the industry giant, has been for a long time. It actually, I recommend it. Um, all of my appointment-based studios, regardless of niche, everyone that I've worked with has eventually ended up on Mindbody, even if they didn't start there. So that's why I recommend it. It just has the biggest feature set, most robust features of pretty much I would say any scheduler in the industry. And that's just because it had just such a bigger head start. I mean, it's been around for
Hmm.
30 years, maybe. And so because it's been around for 30 years, yes, I know it. Everyone's got some opinions on it. It can be clunky at times. It's definitely went through some support struggles around the pandemic. I believe it's back on a good path. So I do feel like I can recommend it. You're looking at probably around $500 a month for Mindbody. And when I say recommend it, like if you are not a super small studio, we're going to get into some other recommendations for that. Um,
Hmm.
but really, it checks all the boxes for being able to do reoccurring bookings, rolling over packages, payroll. You've got all kinds of flexibility for that. Um, the low transparent fees, as you talked about, can kind of go back and forth. You do need to be on top of that. It can be confusing at times because there's a lot of different fee structures that they have. So maybe that one doesn't check the box completely. That would be something to watch for. Um, Excellent reporting, all kinds of reports that you want. They also have a marketing suite integrated. So they also have things like if you want a chat bot on your site, you can add that on and everything. One of the things that I do like about them too is they do have all this stuff built in, but they also integrate with a lot of other tools too. So if you're looking at growing and you want to try Perkville for referrals or, any number of other tools, they have a marketplace of other tools that they work happily with. So it is kind of the top end. If you're looking at growing and you really want to lean into the technology to help you grow, and you want to know that you're not going to run into many limitations, mindbody is the one that I would recommend.
Do you have, so what I'd love to do is, as we go through each one of these, I'll just have a few questions on each.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a threshold of mindbody, like, when you're at X number of trainers, it makes sense? $500 a month is a lot of money for software.
Right.
I think a lot of my listeners are probably like scoffing, as you said, the price point there. So,
Yeah.
so do you think there's a threshold with trainers, or maybe revenue, profit? I don't know how you think about that.
Yeah, there probably is. I don't know what that point would be. I'd have to do the math and probably talk to some of my consultant friends who are great at budgeting and profit loss calculations. That's not really my forte, but I am sure there's a certain point where that matters. Yeah, kind of depends on how big you want to scale, I guess.
Yeah.
It's one you can grow with. They do have a starter one that's cheaper than that. I put 500 because that's what most people are at. If they're using the basic tools and they have all the reports, the website widgets come at that price point. So there is a starter rate that's lower, if you really want to grow. But yeah,
that's a good point. You can start lower and then you can add features and build up to the higher subscription. Because I'm just thinking there, if you've got I think most of us listening are probably trying to build high 6-7 figure studios. And if you're at that revenue level, then the ROI totally makes sense, because the features are going to give you so much more, so much value to your business in terms of, not just client management, but marketing and just reducing management overhead in general.
Yeah, and absolutely, if you have more than one location, mindbody is a great option.
Cool. So my other concern with mindbody was, to your point there, I felt like what I like about that local solution, Glowfox, I mentioned, I don't know too much about them, so I'm not recommending them, but just on the surface, they're a point solution, very focused. No, they're not a point solution. That's not correct, but they're just very focused on the boutique studio niche. That is their focus, right? Whereas mindbody, and when I say boutique, I mean like fitness, mindbody appears to become so much broader now and they've made adjacent horizontal moves to work with loads of different sort of wellness businesses across the spectrum.
Yeah.
And in so doing, have obviously broadened their feature set and their product, but then it feels just more clunky for the fitness business owner, or it at least did. So what's your thoughts on that? Them going so broad, do you think that's a negative for our space?
I actually think that is a positive for your space, because when they branch into wellness beauty, they are focused more on appointment, and that's where you're at. The more they double down on fitness, typical fitness is more class-based. So you actually want a scheduler that has some interest in beauty wellness businesses, particularly the wellness industry. Cryotherapy and all that is growing a lot. So if there is a focus in that niche, it means they're going to be putting more assets into appointment booking, which roundabout helps you out, because typically with a lot of these fitness class or schedulers, the appointments are the side thing. They're like very focused on classes, and then like, oh yeah, we also do appointments. That's not what you want. You want someone who loves appointments. So I actually think that kind of shift in the industry can help you out on this niche specifically. But yeah, I mean, mindbody is a big business, publicly traded. They've, they go after profits, and they've made a move towards the end consumer as well. There's kind of a marketplace there. They've made a big move towards franchises, a lot of different directions. I do think in the last couple of years, they have doubled down with the leadership changes they had after the pandemic. They doubled down on fixing the core software, and I'm actually seeing a lot of those improvements come out right now. Even just with the last 2 weeks, they came out with a new appointment booking widget, which was way overdue, but made the appointment process a lot nicer to book for the end client. So I am seeing those changes and those improvements, which tells me that they're kind of on the right direction of getting back to a little bit of their their core features. But and the appointments was something that was ignored for so long that I'm really happy to see an appointment booking update.
Great. Thank you for that. Awesome. All right. So should we move on to Momence?
Yeah. So Momence has come in. They are a new, and it's spelled Momence. They're in the startup category. They came up just before the pandemic. They come in at about $300 a month right now as a ballpark price. They've emerged as the biggest competitor to mindbody as far as feature set. They do everything that we talked about. They may do more than a hit studio really needs to, because they've added, they have video on demand. They definitely have classes. They do a lot of things. So if you plan to grow and you just want a lot of different options, it might be a choice for you. Their support has traditionally been better than mindbody. They do have, and this is a deal breaker for a lot of people, they do have that extra transaction fee. However, they're very transparent about it. So they will tack on, that's I think why their monthly rate is less than Moments, but that would help out a smaller studio. Whereas the monthly rate is for all the features is less, but they do have that extra transaction fee. So that's based on the volume of revenue that you're doing, what that number is actually going to be.
Do you
So
know
that's
what
something
the
to watch out
additional
for.
fee is exactly? Roughly.
I can't remember. I think it's like 2-3%. I can't.
Which can be
totally recall.
significant over the course of a year,
Yeah.
right? So that's a bit of a concern. Yeah.
Mhm. And when and that is a deal breaker for some. It depends on how small you plan on staying, I guess.
Yeah.
For that. The other thing that I don't love about them, they're actually their UX, or the interface for both the back end staff and the clients, is actually pretty good. The one thing that their checkout always takes you off the site. So they have nice widgets that put you on their site. The purchase links will always take you to a Moments checkout page. So it's not quite as slick as mindbody, where it's embedded, it pops up on your own website, you keep them on your site. It does take you off. However, it is one of the better ones of that, because you can brand that checkout page entirely for your own business. When we get into some of these other options, it's going to be branded for the scheduling software. With Moments, you can change the colors and you can put your logo and you can make it look like your brand as much as possible. So I gave it an okay for widgets, because they do take you off your own website at some point, but you can brand it pretty well. So it's a solid option for schedulers these days.
Yeah, and just to add, I do know a hit studio, a fairly successful one, that are using Moments and very happy with it. So it's definitely a potential option there. Okay.
Yeah, and all my clients who have moved to Moments, they're all happy with it. I think the support is excellent still. They've grown well. They're very responsive to their development team, is very aggressive as far as if there's something that needs to be added, a feature, they're pretty quick on adding it, and they're pretty responsive to their client base. So
Just on the extra fees, is that something to do with having their own payment processor? Is that how mindbody have less fees because they have their own payment processor in place or something like that? Am I on the right
I
track
think
there?
for Moments specifically, it's how they're keeping their monthly rate less than
Oh,
mindbody,
I see.
offering this. I think that's kind of the trade-off, and they will tell you, if you are a small studio, you're going to save money this way.
Yeah.
This might be that you might be able to negotiate that differently as you grow too. These are not hard and fast prices as well. Some of these are not even published online. These are just what I've known from
I
talking to
see.
people. So I think
Yeah.
some of them are even you can negotiate and everything. But just to give you the ballpark, that is something that
Okay.
one of the tools that they use for their pricing that you'll want to check for.
Yeah, and so just to summarize that, it sounds like there's thresholds for where it makes sense and does not make sense to use something like Moments. Again, depending on the number of sessions you're doing in your business. So just be mindful of that when you're evaluating that tool. Okay.
Right.
So fitDEGREE.
fitDEGREE, yes. So it's FIT degree.
All caps.
All caps. Yes, that's how they spell it. All caps degree. This is a smaller scheduling software. Really nice people, really nice team, excellent support, probably the best in the industry. So if you are overwhelmed with the idea of a scheduling tool and you want, someone to be there to support you. Like, you don't want to be with a big company. You want to feel really supported. This is a great option. It's also cheaper. So I have $225 a month, and that's for everything. They do have a lower rate that I believe would probably apply for trainers. Depends on how big your business is. But I know they have a $99 rate as well. So puts
It's
it a
worth
little more.
saying actually that all of these probably have multiple tiers,
They
right?
do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're just giving an approximate ballpark price here. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, if you want, a really highly supportive platform, it does all the basics as far as appointments. If you do small group classes, absolutely that as well. Multiple trainers, monthly membership subscriptions, packages, recurring bookings. They do not do rollover venues packages. So that's where it comes down to, like, you can get a more inexpensive software here if you know that that's not something that you're going to need. But they do have pretty good reporting. They're very low and transparent transaction fees. Their website widgets or their interface is okay. The embeddable ones are pretty good. It does also take you off for the actual checkout, but it's a pretty nice checkout page. So take a look at that. But it's really a solid kind of lower priced option that does a lot of the things and comes with a smaller company feel that you feel like you matter and that you get great support. So if you're looking for that, I like them for that. They are US and Canada only. And then for marketing, they're integrated with LoopSpark. And that's a favorite of a lot of my clients for that client resource management and marketing tools. So
Cool. All right. Perfect. And Acuity is the next one. This is a well-known
Acuity.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And this is what I personally use in my business. Been
Okay.
using it for years. It's really, really solid. I recommend this if you're a solo for sure, or if you're really small, maybe you and one other trainer, and you plan to stay small. If you're in this boat, Acuity was started years ago. The founder made it for his mom was a massage therapist, so it started from the very ground up as an appointment based. They have added on. They do have the ability to do small group classes, so you can absolutely do classes too. But what I like about that is all the little things that these bigger companies don't think about appointments. Acuity's been working on for a decade. So they have pretty much everything you would need for appointments. Nice reminder emails, follow-up automated emails. All of that is all built in there. So it comes down price point wise, $27 a month for up to 6 trainers. So that puts you in a totally different camp for pricing there if you're a small studio. You are going to struggle with reporting and payroll specific. So if that's the case, that you're going to still do some of that stuff manually, you can get that data. They do have very basic reporting as far as revenue goes, but you're not going to be able to, get real fancy with your reporting. So you might have to do some of that more manually. But I love Acuity. I think it's just very sleek. The website integrations, the widgets, the booking experience is very good. And like I said, they've kind of figured out all the little things that appointments need or want to do and made it a pretty nice experience for both the business owner and the end user.
Yeah, you're right. The UX, the user experience on the client, sorry, the business owner side is actually really great, and it's really easy to use. And yeah, that's one that is used by multiple hit businesses that I know of. It's a popular one, but like you said, it's mainly more for a smaller studio. If a studio owner wants to grow beyond themselves and wants more features to support that, then obviously gonna have to look at other softwares.
Yeah.
All right. Vagaro, am I saying that right? Is that the next one?
Yeah, Vagaro, and so that's spelled Vagaro. This is a popular one for appointment-based business, at least here in the States. You'll more see it for your hairstylist, estheticians, that type of the beauty industry, but they do have a pretty good following of personal trainers too. This one, I would say, I'm not a huge fan just because I strongly dislike the branded checkout process. It feels cheap to me. It comes in at $80 a month for 6 trainers. I kind of picked, they have different pricing too if you have less trainers than that. So it's also very affordable. But I think the trade-off there is you send them off your site, you feel like kind of a marketplace, the Vagaro marketplace type look. It's not branded to your business once they get into where they're actually booking things. So functionally, it's great for appointments. A lot of people like how it runs on the back end. From a client checkout process, which is why it's low down on my list. I feel like it just feels a little bit cheap from the client to where you're like, okay, now I'm kind of pushed over to this marketplace to check out. Does not have widgets you can put on your own site. But otherwise checks all the boxes, and some people like it.
Interesting. Okay. And then WellnessLiving. I think few of us are
WellnessLiving.
familiar with that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The WellnessLiving's been around for a long time. I think they're out of Canada.
They are,
I
yeah.
believe. Yeah.
Mhm.
$200 a month is your ballpark price there. They've been for a long time, probably the most consistent mindbody competitor. They do a lot of, all the things that you would want, the rollovers, the recurring bookings, decent reporting and payroll. The reason they're kind of further down my list as a web designer, again, is their website widgets are kind of clunky. They don't look real modern. They have some incompatibilities with browsers. Clients kind of end up having some problems here and there. They're just, I don't know, they're just kind of clunky. I guess that's the best way I can say it. They also, if you Google, WellnessLiving transaction fees, you'll find a lot of complaints on transaction fees being up without really people knowing, whether that's the studio owners not reading the fine print or not realizing it. But
That's
they
probably
have
true
their
as
own,
well.
yeah, they have their own payment processor, apparently. And, that fees, from what I was seeing, up to like 5%. And that was
Wow.
kind of without the business owner realizing it. So you'll hear some grumblings about that. So as long as you're very clear and you're very on top of that, it might be good too. So overall, I know a lot of appointment-based businesses that are very happy on WellnessLiving. So it's absolutely a good option. It just doesn't impress me a whole lot from the user experience as a web designer. But
Yeah, and obviously we're looking at the 6 top solutions. So even the bottom solutions are still like, right up there in this list. And I know a few
yeah,
hit businesses that use WellnessLiving and are quite happy with it. I wouldn't say they are absolutely ecstatic about it. I would just say that they're sort of content with it. That's kind of the
yeah.
feeling I get from those I know. And is that just available in Canada and US, I think, WellnessLiving? I think they're only just available in the US, are they?
I am
Could be
not
wrong about
sure.
that actually,
I
because I
mean,
know.
they're in
Yeah.
Canada, so I would imagine at least Canada and the US, but I'm not positive
Okay, cool.
elsewhere.
Okay, well, if anyone's listening to this outside that's interested in WellnessLiving, just be mindful they may not be available outside there. Perfect. That was great. Thank you for the overview. You've got some others here that you don't recommend. Did you touch on that earlier, or do you want to just go through that briefly?
Yeah, I'll go through that for people who aren't looking at the list. So Walla has emerged post-pandemic, and that's spelled WALLA. That has emerged as a really great option for fitness studios. You will see that compared a lot to Momence and mindbody if you're looking in that neighborhood. They at this point don't do recurring appointment scheduling. So, and they're going through a moment with some slow support. So as of right now, I don't recommend you kind of go look there. It's not great for appointments, really good for classes only, but a little slow to develop their appointment scheduling features. Mariana Tech is another real popular one in the fitness industry, particularly with Spin and Legree Studios. They don't do appointments though. They're all class based. They will say they do appointments, but the workaround is that you build a class for one person, which is not really true appointments, and they're not going to have those extra features that you want for appointments. So you can safely take that one off your list. Arquetta is another one that has been kind of out of the pandemic. If you have a hybrid business and you want the video support, video on demand tutorials, you want to sell maybe some 30-day challenges that include videos. This one is a good option. They do have studio scheduling and they do have appointments as well. I actually almost moved a personal trainer client of mine from Acuity to Arquetta And then the one thing that was a deal breaker was they do have extra fees when you're at their lowest price point. So just watch out for that. They have like I think it's $99 a month so if you're a hybrid business and you have all that video stuff that you want to bring in too, that's a great option. But watch at that price point, they do have extra fees. So
Okay, got it. Yeah, and it just to highlight what you said there about, unfortunately, we can't make this evergreen podcast. The site is the part of it that is evergreen will be how to get the most out of your demo calls, how to the mindset, the strategy for actually making a decision. Because obviously, in a year's time, this will have moved on. I mean, maybe
right.
Mindbody will be the leader for the larger business, and maybe Acuity will still be the leader for the smaller business. Because I feel like we've kind of settled on those two as being depending on where you're at in your business, those are the ideal solutions
Agree.
for most businesses. But yeah, this be mindful. We're recording this June 5th, 2024. So if you're listening to this in a year, there might be some inaccuracies, but this is the best I guess we could do at this stage.
Yeah. And hopefully it gives
Yeah.
you kind of a filter, a list of
Yes.
things to evaluate yourself whenever in the future you happen to be doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's get into that quickly. I know I'm running over a little bit here, Connie, so I'll try not to talk as much. But do you want to go through how to get the most out of your demo calls? And I'll stop sharing the screen here, and yeah, we can just go through this list of bullets for the demo calls.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So absolutely. Again, another disclaimer on all of this: do your own research, do your own demo calls, make your short list of ones that you're evaluating, and then get on demo calls with them. Demo calls, as you can imagine, is a nice way of saying sales calls. So they are, the people on the calls are great and they are very knowledgeable about the product. Their job is to sell you on it. So I would recommend going into those demo calls, knowing what you want to get out of it. And you might have to interrupt them at some point and say, I have a list of specific features I'd like to see. Can you show me those? And that's absolutely what you should do to make the most out of your time there. So in order to do that, before you get on a demo call, prepare your list of must-haves, all those things that we just talked about. What is the structure of your business? What is the nice to haves and what are the must-haves? What are the deal breakers? So prepare that list. Got to know your packages and how you plan to, pricing and how you plan to manage your client. Ask to see the client's booking experience on those calls. A lot of times on those demo calls, they'll take you into the back end, what you as the business owner will be using, show you how fancy and pretty it is. Ask to say, what does it look like to book a session for my client, and make them show you the in-booking experience on somebody's website. And then that's kind of my next one. Ask for examples of studios that are using the platform already, specifically if they have any that are in the personal training space, where they're more appointment based. And this may be something that they might send you after the call, but go and pretend you're a client of them, how easy it is for me to book on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, ask to see the client's booking experience and evaluate that, not just the fancy backend that they're showing you. And then ask to see examples of studios that are using the platform. They should be able to send those to you. If you run out of time on that demo call, ask if you can send them a list of follow-up questions. Any software who will not entertain that, I would leave right there, because that's an indication of, how good their support is. They should be happy to have you send them a list of follow-up questions, and they should reply with, specific links, examples, and show you that. So, prepare your list of must-haves beforehand. Ask to see the client booking experience. Ask for examples of other studios using the platform, and then send a list of follow-up questions if you run out of time. And if you do that for your top, 3 choices that you've done a little preliminary research on, you should have a pretty good answer on what studio scheduling software is best for you.
Yeah, perfect. I love that. Just there's such a key point about, it's not about the back end experience for you. It's about the experience for your clients. So I don't know why I never thought of that. Like that's so, like in my own step by step I shared with someone, I didn't have anything like that listed. And even when I think we evaluated software, we never looked at it from the client side. We only looked at the back end from the owner side, business side. And so that completely makes sense. That's so important. Connie, this is amazing as always. Thank you so much. I think it's going to be really useful to people. What's the best place to send people to learn more about what you do?
Yeah, my website, pixalitydesign.com. That's PIXALITY design.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Pixality Design. And if you're interested in upgrading your website, need the support to do that, at pixalitydesign.com, and you can see a list of my services and you can contact me from there.
Great. Thank you so much. And for everyone listening to the show notes to this episode, please go to highintensitybusiness.com and search for episode 470. Until next time, thank you very much for listening. Hey, it's Lawrence again. Before you go, I have something special for those looking to accelerate their hit business. Would you like to know how to generate a flood of leads for free? Download our exclusive Build a Referral Machine playbook. It's a concise guide packed with proven strategies from Luke Carlson, CEO of Discover Strength, a fast-growing hit franchise. Clients in our hit business membership using these referral tactics have added 20 to 40 new clients, transforming their businesses dramatically. In this playbook, you'll uncover 4 dynamic referral tactics that you can implement right now to drive leads. Plus, when you download the guide, you'll gain access to invaluable resources to expand your business, like ready-to-use sales presentations, a guide for attracting top-notch trainers, a checklist for nailing your sales process, and so much more. And there's a bonus. Subscribe today to ensure you don't miss out on exclusive opportunities like live group calls with hit experts. Plus, you have the chance to contribute questions for our interactive Q&A blog posts and podcasts, where we directly address your queries with industry experts. These special events are scheduled periodically, and as a subscriber, you'll be the first to know when they happen. Just visit highintensitybusiness.com/ref, that's REF, short for referrals, highintensitybusiness.com/ref, or click the link available where you're watching or listening to this, drop in your email, and you'll get instant access to all these resources today.